This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
We will call the meeting to order. Hang on, folks. July 23rd, the Southampton Select Board calling it to order at 6 o'clock. We'll stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. All right, just a couple of quick announcements, and then we'll open it up here a little bit more. So 2 or 3 things. I think most people have noticed. I saw a few comments back and forth that the cemetery fence has been repaired, so a big shout out to the Historical Commission. Sorry, not the Historical Commission, I take that back. They can have a shout out too, but it's really the Cemetery Commission. The Cemetery Commission who managed to get all the players in order to get that done, so that's looking a whole lot better. It's been kind of in a sad shape for more than a couple of years now, or about 2 years since the big tree fell down on it. So thanks to Robert and the Cemetery Commission, Judith and David, for getting that taken care of. It really makes a difference as you pass through by the cemetery. And then 2 big shout outs, if I get this right, I hope. So our girls 10 and under all-star softball team are the state champions, and they are going to the Northeast Regionals in New York very soon, in about a week or so. So congratulations to them. And not to be outdone, the boys 10 and under baseball placed second at the mini Fenway series. So we got a lot of sportifs here in town that are 10 years and under. So congratulations to everybody, and thanks to all the hard work of the coaches and everybody, parents that have been involved in doing that. So that's really nice to see. So with that, we have time for citizens speak, or open time for the public as it was previously known. Is anybody here for that is not on the agenda? If so, feel free to stand up at the mic and introduce yourself and what street you live on, and then tell us what you're here for.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Aaron Bauer. I live at 266 County Road in Southampton, on the Hamden Pond side of town. I just wanted to bring your attention up to something that I started last year, and I would like to move forward with trying to figure out some issues, and I'm looking for help now. So last year I wrote a letter, and I had some neighbors sign it. If you recall, at 264 County Road, which is a house next to me, to my right, if you're actually facing the property, closer to Friar Road. And I understand that there's no bylaw for lawn mowing and property maintenance in town. I looked it up. There is nothing at this time. Other towns do have it around the area. And I'm looking for direction. And what I mean by that is I have last year's photos here with me that I brought. I did talk to the health department last year, and I talked to I forget the gentleman who was sitting over here. I believe he retired.
Ed Gibson? Yeah.
Yes.
Former town administrator.
Yes, former town administrator. And he said to write a letter to the health department. Time has gotten away from me. That's on me. But here we are again. And I have more pictures. And I've been at my property for 14 years. Put in a driveway, put in a brick patio, made it nice. All the neighbors are really, they've seen what I've done over the years. I've been growing up there. My kids have been growing up there. I want the neighborhood to look good. And this one house is the only one. The gentleman on the corner of Friar Road, since he bought it 3 or 4 years ago, I went over, talked to him, got his signature. If you recall, I talked to the Kuchers, Elaine, who used to work here for the town. I'm not only a concerned citizen, but at what point do we say, hey, look, you're on a main road, your neighbors are not happy. Would you like to see the updated pictures from today?
I've never seen the first one, so I'll look.
Oh,
People are new on
I'm
the
glad
board.
to show you.
Some
I
people are
did,
new on the board, but, so we'll give you a couple more minutes. So this is, you're basically concerned about the tall grass because it's
Well,
also bringing in animals? Is that the issue? if I remember?
it's not just the animals. It's the ticks, the mosquitoes. It's bad.
And you've had a chance
And
to
it's
talk to
growing,
them?
it's actually coming into my property.
And you've had a chance to talk to this neighbor, or?
The father and so the wife and the husband left their son in the property. They moved down to Holyoke into a mother-in-law's house on the corner of, I believe it's 202, and that would be Main Street in Holyoke, right across from the brand-new People's United Bank. Here's the pictures from last year. Just pass them around. It's the same.
So you have or have not spoken to the person?
I talked to the parents, and they pretty much told me, the father directed me and said, his name is Eric Sexton. He does not actually own the property. His wife owns 264 County Road. And he said, I will not do anything until I'm directed to. So that to me basically means until
Yeah.
he has a letter from either the health department or there's a bylaw in place
Yeah.
or something in place.
Okay. So have you actually approached the health department? You said.
I did approach her last year, yes.
Because they should be having a Board of Health meeting coming up fairly soon. I would think that,
If you approached them last year, did you get a response of any kind from them at the time?
That the health department?
Yeah, you said.
I did not get a written response. I actually came to the office and I spoke to her. And she pretty much just didn't really give me a straightforward answer. Kind of like they didn't want to deal with the issue.
I think my suggestion would be to not, belabor it, would be, it really does start there, I think, with the Board of Health, in my understanding, unless anybody else has any thoughts. We can check and see when the next Board of Health meeting
Yep.
is, and have you actually go and meet the committee, the whole Board of Health.
That's fine.
So that would be,
I need to do something because at this
That'd be
point,
the start.
you know, we have a lot of things going on in town. We're buying property.
Yeah.
We're building on our police department and fire department, which is going to be great. We're spending money. So where does it mean? It means taxes are going to go up. I have no problem with that. I voted yes on it. But here, if you look, this person's property next door, this is the house in question. I might have to get a little bit closer because I took it on my iPad. But the lawn is this tall. And it's right on County Road. So people walk their dogs, the sidewalk's right there. And you see my house right there? That is the brush from his property growing onto mine. And that's the backyard. Now you tell me, is that a backyard with a shed?
Let me see.
See some Sasquatch in there, I don't know.
So this is what my kids look at outside their windows.
yeah. So I think at this point in time, I mean, without, going into great discussion, there is no bylaw in town, and I know from the Bylaw Advisory Committee, this would not only take time to develop a bylaw, and then it's got to
understand
pass town meeting. So this is a protracted
No, I understand
process.
that.
So your easier path forward would be to attend a meeting of the Board
Yeah,
of
and
Health.
I just looked it up.
I
There
know.
is a meeting coming up, but it is not yet posted,
Okay, so
and I'm
it's not
sorry, I
scheduled.
don't have a memory of when it is.
So there should be one, but we can.
There is definitely one scheduled. I'm sorry, I don't recall
Yeah, why
exactly.
don't you leave your email or contact information?
Sure,
and then
absolutely.
We'll let you know when the Board of Health meeting is, and then you could.
I'm not asking, we don't need any more laws or bills. But my point is that there's no pride in anything. The father drives up, grabs the mail, leaves. I get it. You guys don't want to live with your son? I've asked the son to mow the lawn. No response. Mute. Barely see the person. Somebody actually lives in that property.
Okay.
You can see the trash, which this would be more of the health department, which I brought up last year.
Yeah.
Next to the driveway, it's piled up in their mudroom.
Yeah, okay.
And you can see it from the street.
Well, this definitely would be more of a Board of Health issue to start with, and then we can see where that goes.
I'm going to keep working on this because to the point where the neighbors still stay, they still ask me, are you just going to mow the lawn for them? That's what they basically say.
Okay.
I just need help. And I need help from the right people.
Okay. Well, let us commit to at least giving you information as to when the Board of
Yeah.
Health meeting is.
Do you
and letting
want to
know
write
that.
your email address here?
I can, is it scheduled on the website?
It'll be on the MyTown
It
Gov
will be, it's
website,
not
yeah.
at this moment scheduled.
It will be on the town
Okay,
website.
I can give you my email.
Not publicly, why don't you just
Yeah,
write
why
it
don't you
down
just
here?
write it down? Yeah, on the way out.
And
Okay.
I will email you the answer. I'll look it up in the minutes, which I don't have in front of me, if you just want to write it right there.
Awesome.
All right, that's good. Okay. All right, we have thank you, Aaron. We have a public hearing this evening, which is scheduled to begin right now, so I'd like to call the public hearing to order
Just want to make sure I have this.
at 6:10.
A, J, B, E, oh,
Right.
A, J, B, C, R, A, N,
And
E.
Scott,
Okay,
I'd
thank
like
you.
to have you
Thank you very much.
kind of lead us off in terms of that. Thank you very much for coming. To lead us into that, this is to act on a requested change of category from a wine and malt off-premises license to an all-alcohol off-premises license.
Do you need a vote to open the public meeting?
I think we do probably need a vote to open the public meeting.
Aye.
It's prob- Okay, motion to open, yes?
Second.
All right.
We nailed that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, we are open, thank you very much. Yeah, and we do have, yeah, go ahead, I'll let you,
I have a little bit of technical
yeah,
difficulties,
go ahead
but
and lead us through whatever we need to do here, Scott, please.
so this process actually started back in 2022. This was for an additional all alcohol license.
Your mic is a little bit up there. Oh, sorry.
Additional all alcohol license for the town of Southampton because we've reached our limit of 2. So this would add the third. Pure Foods had previously been approved for a beer and wine
Right.
license. So then now they went forward with town meeting approval with the all alcohol select board approval, and then it went to the legislature back in 2022 for approval. Recently, Vicki had contacted me about what the status is, so I researched it. We didn't see any final approval, so we started going through the approval process, letting all the abutters know, posting it in the newspaper, doing the query search and make sure all the taxes are paid and the process. And then Judy had found in the last sentence of the enabling legislation that there was a 1-year limit on approval. So after we found that, I reached out to Representative Peace's office. He's been working really hard with Senator Vilas just to get everything squared away. We've been talking pretty much every day for a couple weeks. So right now, we had a Teams meeting today with the Governor's Council. The quickest and easiest way to get the legislative approval would be for the governor to submit emergency legislation for them to amend the previous legislation, adding the years.
Because what had been approved has expired. I mean, we were not notified, or at least at this level, we weren't notified that it had even been approved and it had made through the ABBC yet, but, okay.
Right. So the governor is, the governor's council is asking for really 2 things. The first motion would just be a support of the select board to the governor's office, that you support moving forward with this. And the second would be an explanation how this could probably be detrimental to the business if it wasn't approved on an emergency basis. The second motion would be approving the actual license itself pending legislative and governor's approval. Hopefully the ABCC will take that and we don't have to restart the process all over again.
Right, right, because this had already been through town meeting, it had done through everything, way back when, and something fell through the cracks very, very seriously. Yeah, Dan, question?
Was that one line at the end, was that just something that we overlooked, that we won't have in our future write-ups about this, or is, how do we avoid this in the future, is my question.
I don't know that we'll have another. I mean, we're limited to the number of of licenses in town, but yeah, I mean, who knows, but yeah, I mean, yeah, something was seriously, I mean, overlooked. I mean, in you know, wherever it landed, I don't know. At this point in time, but, you know, whatever time frame had been given has expired, as my understanding. So we need to do whatever we can to.
I'll make a motion to, in complying with the wishes of the town residents as stated at the annual town meeting when they unanimously voted to support this, that the select board issue a communication to the governor's council and the governor urging their immediate action in support of this.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then there's two do you want the specific motion language that you gave me?
Yeah, I would just adopting the language pending legislative and gubernatorial approval.
Okay, but the motion to ask that the governor file for an extension, is that
Yes.
also?
Yep.
So first motion, and then we'll go to Vicky,
Yep.
right? Okay, so first motion, another motion then to follow that?
So moved.
Okay, a motion requesting, I'm going to read it into the record. Motion requesting Governor Healy file for an extension on the legislation from the Acts of 2022, Chapter 199, granting an additional license for the sale of all alcoholic beverages. So, that's the
Second.
motion, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then I think we've basically done the one that John just put forward to approve the license pending approval of the Massachusetts legislature and governor. But if we would like to hear from the Pure Food, I can't see any, is she on there? Okay, there we go. Oh,
She
perfect.
is, yeah.
Okay, there she is. Yeah, so.
Hello.
Vicky, yeah, Vicky and
Yeah, and my brother Josh.
Josh.
Hello.
Okay, very good, yeah, so, go ahead, Scott, maybe you've already had discussions with them, so,
Vicky, if you could maybe just talk about how this would detrimentally affect the business if it wasn't approved?
Well, first of all, like we wouldn't necessarily know the impact because we haven't had the opportunity to actually sell these items. I know that customers do come in, and when they do ask for them, we have to tell them we don't sell them. They do leave the store without purchasing anything else. So we do see revenue leaving the store. We do sell, for instance, Bloody Mary mix, but we have no alcohol to go with it. So we lose those sales. Right now, we know that your ready-to-drink cocktails are very popular. Those are your Surfsides, your High Noons. We are unable to sell any of those. Who knows in another year if they'll be popular or not, but people are coming in for that. So you're losing, we're actually seeing the beer sales go down because people are coming in for those other drinks that we don't sell. So then they leave. So basically, you know, at the end of the day, we're a small family-run business. We've been in town for 60 years. We really need to be competitive to be able to remain successful. So are we losing revenue? Yes, I definitely 100% we're losing revenue.
and I would think, Vicki,
Thank
too,
you.
that you probably are also losing revenue based on certain holiday sales. I mean, I would imagine, I'm guessing, but I'm
Yes.
imagining that, you know, holidays like 4th of July or Labor Day or whatever would be possibly big sale days, and you've obviously missed most of last year, or all of last year, I guess, and half of this year, right? So
Well,
can I
actually,
make that
when this
assumption,
all-
or is that a wrong assumption?
No, when this all started, I actually went back to my emails to make sure that I was contacting Ed way back in April to make sure we didn't miss Memorial Day of 2023.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
And he said he was on top of things. And then Memorial Day came and went. And I said, hey, July 4th is coming up. It's a big holiday for us. You know, we do huge sales to be able to supply, you know, convenience for our customers to sell everything. And he's like, oh, yeah, we're on top of it. We're on top of it. Same thing. And then next thing you know, we're on to the next holiday. And it just kept continuing. It was continuing to be pushed off and pushed off and pushed off. The whole time, us being completely unaware of the paperwork, never saw it until about 2 weeks ago that had the 1-year expiration, or I would have probably personally been on it, right, you know, on it a lot more.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely sales. We missed Christmas again, New Year's again, Memorial Day again. I mean, we've lost a lot of revenue.
Vicki, would you consider the all alcohol license a vital part of your business plan to keep the business afloat?
Absolutely. Nowadays, absolutely.
Anybody have any comments or questions on this end from Select Board? Yeah,
Glad we
Stephen?
supported this
Yeah.
with two separate motions.
Yeah. Is this what we need to
Appeal to
do
the
to make this
legislature.
move forward and see
Yeah.
how our rep and senator can keep on pushing it through the governor's office or whatever channels they need to go through down in Boston to try and expedite this, right? I mean, what we want to try and avoid is to have to start the process all over again, correct? So I think with our 2 votes tonight, hopefully that will at least give them some argument and some weight to move forward.
And then just the other vote, just approving the license or disapproving it.
Okay. There's
Legislative approval.
Okay, so another motion, okay, a little bit different. So to approve or disapprove the license, so we want to approve the license pending approval of the Massachusetts State Legislature and the governor.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
second, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, unanimous.
Just let me add one more thing. This is a good business to have in town. It's a local family, and it's a great alternative to the only other food store in town. Not to say that isn't a good food store, but I often go to this shop because there's local vegetables and good meat, and I know the family, so therefore I'm supportive of this.
Right.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Good. Well, I think we will try to keep it moving here, and now it's definitely got our attention, so it will not fall off our radar screen again. I don't know that it ever made it onto our radar. I never heard that it had even been approved. So I'm glad that at least we can try to rectify this and see if with Rep. Pease and Senator Vilas we can try to make this happen without too much more delay. Okay?
Vote motion.
Yep.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks,
We
everybody, for
appreciate it.
joining in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Very much.
That was a little hard to
Thank
hear, but
you.
hopefully we got through.
Yes,
Good. You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. Next up, let's see. We have some appointments and resignations. I'll take the first one. So we have, I'll just take the first one, then Dan's got the couple, then we'll keep on going. So first one, Christina Johnson, resignation, Council on Aging Director. That's motion.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Dan, if you
I
take
would
the
like
next
to make a
two.
motion for a new appointment of Nicole Marcotte to the Conservation Commission, term to expire June 30th, 2027.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye. I would like to make a motion for Sierra Simmons reappointment to the CPC. That's a correction for the expiration date should be June 30th, 2026.
Okay,
Second?
all right, all those in favor? Aye. All right, we'll take a pause for a minute because Nicole is here. So Nicole, why don't you just come on up and introduce yourself for a second and say hi and tell us a little bit about your background and why you want to join the Concom.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm Nicole Marcotte. I actually live in Montgomery, so a neighbor to Southampton. I had reached out to the Montgomery Concom to see if there was an opportunity to join, and I never heard back. So through a colleague of mine at Mass Audubon, I heard about this opportunity, and I currently work as a conservation restriction stewardship specialist at Mass Audubon, so monitoring properties in central and western Massachusetts. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to kind of lend some of my expertise to the Conservation Commission, but also have the opportunity to learn a bit more about the inner workings of the commission. So very excited about the opportunity.
Wonderful, great. Charity.
I'm going to add one more thing. Nicole, I know you know some people who are actively doing some conservation and trailblazing kind of work here in town. Anytime you want to hear or you want to get on our email distribution list for when we're going out and doing trail work and whatever, obviously you're knowledgeable about that, and I'll take your email address at some point and
Yeah.
I'll make sure you get that. Thanks, Nicole, for coming forward on this.
Of course, like happy to help and whatever that may look like, but very excited for this, so thank you.
Well, that's very
Well,
good.
question for you. I know from your background that you've also had a lot of experience running environmental programs. Have you ever served in a regulatory capacity?
No, not in a regulatory
With
capacity.
apologies to MGL 131, it is an all volunteer wetlands permitting body.
Right.
With little time to get beyond that to other important conservation matters. And it involves really wearing different hats when you're regulatory versus when you're facilitating
Right,
community work.
yeah.
And that caught me up short when I first served on the commission. I wish you well, learning the ropes. MACC is an excellent resource.
Yeah.
Dan is a member of the commission, as you have no doubt learned, and a graduate of the MACC
Yeah,
program.
yeah. What's great about it is there's lots of training programs that you can go through, and that's really really the crux of, I think, what most of the members need to do is just really get themselves really fully educated, I guess, about some of the rules and regulations.
Yeah,
so there
definitely.
are opportunities to do that. So
And I
great.
think that's what I was excited about, was have a different lens of the work,
Very
so
good.
great
Well, we thank you for
opportunity.
stepping up. Much appreciated.
Yeah,
And,
thank you.
Always glad to welcome a neighbor.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Nicole, very much. Okay, continuing down. So just one thing I'll note here. The next one for Jake Lehan from a reappointment to Concom. That is actually not necessary. Jake is going off, at least for now, but he may come back on as an associate member on Concom, and Concom is one of the few commissions that does have state legislation that supports an associate member, and that can be done, my understanding, it can be appointed by the chair of the Concom, does not need to come to Select Board. So we'll take Jake off the agenda. So anybody else who would like to move on with the next two or three?
I'd like to move Christina Madsen for reappointment to the Master Plan Implementation Committee, at-large member, term to expire June 30th, 2026.
Okay, move. Second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Want to take a couple together, or you could take these next two together, perhaps? Since you're on the Greenway Committee, if you'd like to.
Want me to do it?
I'm sorry, you're looking at me. Okay.
Yeah, well, Stephen's on the Greenway Committee.
Oh,
so
okay,
it's-
oh, sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Ellen Senius, reappointment to the Greenway Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2027. And for the same term, Mark Cassis, a reappointment to the Greenway Committee, June 30, 2027.
Okay. Have a second, please?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Now Cindy, if you'd like to.
All right, John Lumbra, reappointment to the Capital Committee, term to expire June 30, 2027.
Okay.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Amy Paulus, reappointment Cultural Council, term to expire June 30, 2027.
Second.
Second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Want me to do them all here?
Well,
Chris
go ahead.
Fowles is going to do everything. Reappointment Senior Center Building Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2025. Chris Fowles, reappointment Public Safety Building Committee, term to expire June 30, 2025. And reappointment Master Plan Implementation Committee, term to expire June 30, 2025. Thank you, Chris.
Second.
Second discussion.
Yes, please.
Can you confirm that the senior center and public safety, those are the select board seats, right? This isn't
Yes.
Above and be, there's not going to be two select board members in there?
No.
It's you.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
the select board seat. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and
We
this,
shouldn't worry that these all are coterminous and we don't have any plans.
well, these are done this way because it coincides with my end on the select board. I can't, as a select board rep, I can't be longer than my term on the select board.
Makes
So
sense.
That's why they are all June of
But the
25.
world will not end. next
I'm
year.
sure they won't. We'll figure that out. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, perfect. Okay, that's it for now. Moving on, I think, Scott, Town Administrator report, please.
So we recently had a resignation in the Council on Aging Director. Just talking about next steps, I would recommend to the Select Board establishing a screening committee to at least review advertising resumes at the initial phase, with the hopes of, bringing at least 3 to 5, maybe 7 candidates towards the Select Board. In my past experience, usually it's been a member of the Council on Aging Board, a select board member or two, HR or town administrator, a couple seniors that are active in the senior center as well. I think between 7 and 9 members would be a fair number. I'm thinking, Ted obviously is the new chair. Janet would cover both the building commission and as the former chair, so she brings a really strong knowledge of this. Myself, the emergency COA director, and then if any seniors would want to volunteer to be on the screening committee as well as the select board, I think that would bring us to about 7 to 9, which is a manageable number.
9 might be a large number. 7 might be good. I mean, I think 9 seems like a large number for a screening committee. I don't know, offhand. I mean, just to even coordinate getting all those people together for a meeting. I mean, I think 7 would be a decent number, but,
Good idea.
yeah. So do we need to vote to create this committee, or what do we need to do? Search committee?
If I could,
screening committee?
In past practice, when we've done the fire chiefs or we've empowered other committees to do it,
Yeah.
we've had somebody spearhead and write a charge that we bless, and they go off with those plans.
Okay.
In terms of the duties of what they would do.
How much authority they have all the way.
Yeah. So we could just have maybe just a couple of, half a dozen steps in terms of how they would do screening and, first iteration of interviews perhaps, and then a second level or whatever.
Can I ask a question of John? He referenced the fire chief search committee. Did they also have some members of the fire department on that to participate in the review or not?
That committee was made up of 5 people. One of them was a retired command staff fire chief from another community.
I see.
And then you had.
So not actually somebody to whom that person would report to the
Not from the
chief?
fire department.
Not in the fire. I didn't know if that would be reasonable
We
to
had
have any
two
member of the staff
citizens,
here.
2 residents,
What?
plus the fire chief and plus the police chief.
Okay.
So I'm just asking the question in terms of this, formation of this, would it be reasonable to have anybody who's on the staff?
I personally think for a screening committee, it's fine, because what I think the last step on that charge is going to be to put forward, to recommend
Yeah.
no less than 2, no more than 3.
Right.
Final candidates, where the final interviews would happen here with the decision.
Right.
If we were having them select the person and make a recommendation of the sole person, I'd have an issue with that.
Yeah, I would agree.
But-
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah, okay, I think we're clear. So we'll just get a little clarity in terms of developing a short charge on that. Okay, go ahead, Scott, yeah.
So I had asked to reach out to Deborah Radway, who's a former town administrator, former HR director, municipal experience, to come in part-time and just do a lot of the administrative tasks. This happened on Wednesday, Thursday, the resignation, so it's not, like a retirement that we were planning or a transition. So right now, I'm just want to make sure that the lights are on, that the bills are being paid, the payroll is done, just the basic functions of the position. So she's agreed to come on and, as an emergency, and then pending select board approval would be a temporary. I don't envision this to be a very long appointment. Hopefully we can get a permanent person in there as soon as possible. I also know that Deborah being retired, she has no want for the position full-time or permanent. So that would also allow us to interview a larger screen of candidates too, if anyone was interested in the interim and the permanent. So that's, we can talk about that more later. The town accountant and we finished the first round of interviews for the assistant town accountant. There are 2 candidates that Bradley and I were going to talk about on Thursday to decide how to move forward. So that's slowly moving along. We did have a good recruitment though, so it was a pretty good pool of candidates. We did finish the first initial phase of the VADAR training, and we should be setting up next week or 2 a training for all the employees. For the Manhattan Bridge, I got word last week that the extension for the grant was denied by Mass Trails, unfortunately. I included some of the background information as well. Just we had a second opinion for the architectural plans that were drawn up originally. There was some questions.
The engineering plans for the installation.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And I think it's, we'll have to reach out to the bridge company as well, and maybe, figure out what are some options. We do have the $50,000 available until December, but it's looking like the project is probably going to be, closer to $250,000.
And that's, just to explain that, so as we understand it, it's basically the bridge itself was supposed to be a fairly portable, I guess I would say portable, not collapsible, but portable bridge that can be installed relatively easily. It's a company that has done this, but where we're falling short apparently is where they have to do the installation on the riverbank itself. And that's where the actual anchors for the bridge itself were not fully taken into consideration perhaps. And so there's still more work to be done, but we've had an independent look at that and trying to figure out what next steps might be. So this is a
follow-up
challenge.
question on that detail. What was it that the required span of the bridge was underestimated because of floodplain issues.
Don't know for sure. Apparently now, yeah, it was going to be a 40-foot length, and I think they're talking 75-foot length now, but I think that's partly more just in terms of how far back on the bank it has to be anchored, which I don't know. I'm not sure if it had been looked at that
I've
before.
lived this experience.
So, yeah.
That is not surprising.
Yeah.
That was the cost to the land trust in Bozeman, Montana, even when the design and fabrication of the bridge itself was donated, because it had to be just so with respect to the floodplain, which is getting ever larger year by year with the changing climate. So there may be other ways to skin this cat, notwithstanding the fact that we're going to see a hiatus in the funding.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, if we can possibly, I mean, I think the approval from Mass Trails on the bridge itself was fine. That was not they specifically had told Concom to not over-design this, that they were fine with the bridge, the whole proposition of what the bridge was going to look like there.
Sure.
So we do have that money that if we can possibly use it before December and not lose it, we will try to do that. But
Perhaps to
it's not going
repurpose
to,
it.
or to purchase the bridge, but we still then would have to raise money to figure out the installation of it.
Thank you.
So there, I mean,
I was having trouble tracking.
yeah, no, I think my thought would be if at all possible, that we use the grant money to purchase that portable bridge as planned, which some of them exist in some of the conservation lands over in Hadley, I understand, or Amherst. And so they're not an unusual one, but it's really the engineering anchor part of it in terms of the pylons or whatever it needs to have.
Well,
So-
it's not as glamorous and it doesn't win architectural awards, but
Yeah.
I would question
Yeah.
whether a donation of services has been sought for that aspect.
I don't know if we've gotten that far yet with whoever's working on this with Scott. So we'll definitely explore a lot of things, but we need to talk to the bridge company too. But I know Art Lawrence has been working on it through the Concom angle, helping out there. So
I understand, but now we've got plans and we've got some money, so if we can move swiftly, we can put it to good use.
perhaps, but we're still going to be way short of the amount, and I don't know how much anybody's going to donate that amount of money to
Okay.
install
God
it.
bless.
But I mean, I think if they're talking like $200,000 more, I don't know that anybody's going to volunteer to give that amount of services to the town. I'd be surprised, but we certainly can explore that option. But anyway, yeah, go ahead, Scott, continue on, please.
So the wetlands delineation I included for Zero College Highway came back, no red flags, but there was some expected wetlands on the lower area that we had anticipated, so, but the buildable areas that we're looking for development are okay.
On that point, could I ask Dan whether it would be reasonable and appropriate to get an ANRAD from the Concom so we lock in these delineations?
Yeah, you can do that.
I think all the documentation is in order, it just needs the formal submission and payment of fees.
Okay. All right.
Scott, can you follow up with George?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did we do that prior to taking ownership or after taking ownership, do you think?
The expert would be right there.
You can do it as agent for the owner or the beneficial owner of the contract, either way.
Okay.
All right.
The owner should sign the permit application, current owner.
Okay, Les?
And then this week, we started getting in the survey results from our comparable communities. So far, we've received good data from Belchertown, Granby, Easthampton, Hadley, Wilbraham, South Hadley. We've also received responses from Brimfield, Munson, Hatfield, and also Southwick. Munson and I think it's Munson and Hatfield are currently doing, they just got done with their own compensation study, so they're waiting for the select board to approve everything before they release the results. That should only be another week or two. Brimfield's just having a transitional period right now, so they won't be able to get to it for another week or two, and Southwick as well. And then I do have to just follow up getting responses from Deerfield, Holland, Hamden, and Huntington. So the data's coming in. I would like to get between 10 and 12 good data points. The more the better. So we're close, I think we're about 10 right now. I'd like to, keep going to at least 12, and that'll give us some good information.
And then once you've got that, you're going to take that on yourself to try and do that comparison as you outlined for us at a meeting a few weeks ago.
Yep, it's mostly just data entry right now, making sure everything is matching and what the positions are, just a lot of research. Why, is the building inspector the same in different towns? Is it a full-time position? Is it a union position? Is the same basic responsibility? So it's just kind of looking and sorting through those.
Yeah. And have you had a chance to catch up with the folks at Collins Center at all, or write them a letter or email or something? Or?
I did. Mary is out of the country until August 1st.
Okay. Well, she's probably the main person that we do want to talk to, though, right? So, okay. So, TBD. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions for Scott on that? Okay. Select board reports. Anybody have anything to report from your various committee attendance? Cindy, I'll start with you.
Okay. I can report on Board of Assessors. First of all, we are a board of 3 that only has 2 people on it at this point. We do have an individual who is finally decided that she's interested, it seems, so she's probably going to be submitting a letter of filling out the required volunteer form and also submitting a letter. She's probably not available until early fall, but that's okay with us. So far, this is looking pretty positive. Secondly, we've had some conversations about good service, good face for the public, ways that we can improve good service. Our department is working really well, I think, right now, and so that was a discussion in our meeting today, and I'm feeling very confident and positive about this, because people really want to do a good job and also have our public feel that they're getting good answers in a rapid way and are informed when people need to go out and view the property for whatever reason. So we're talking about that. Board of Health, I did attend an additional meeting, and they're still looking at certain properties that need to be investigated closely for various reasons. This one that was brought during open time today, I really will be eager to see that individual on the agenda to talk about his concern, because that seems to be the direction we're going in right now. Nothing else I can say specifically right now on that. Open Space Committee couldn't meet for a couple different months because we couldn't get a quorum, but we are scheduled to meet this coming Thursday, and so I don't have anything to report because it hasn't happened yet. So those are my 3.
Okay. Dan?
So I think one of the 2 important things to discuss from committees, one was around the planning board, and I'm sure Stephen will join in this conversation. In the planning board meeting, we discussed offering our support in planning around the land at College Highway. We thought that the planning board has something to offer in that, and we moved to the point where we wanted to suggest a joint meeting with the select board so we can offer the services of our agent, Richard Harris, to help in that effort.
Okay. And you guys usually meet in the evenings on a particular day of the week, is that right? What day, is that Wednesdays?
Yeah, Wednesdays for Wednesdays.
So we'd have to figure that out. We haven't heard directly from Paul. I know, Stephen, you'd asked if we'd seen a letter from Paul.
Right.
I haven't yet, but...
Paul Fergal, our vice chair, chaired the meeting on the 17th, so
Okay.
it's
I'm sure we'll hear.
only been a few days.
Yeah, so we'll see about that. If we can get a joint meeting, at least just focus on that and hear what he has to say. I think, too, and I don't know if they've had contact, or Scott, if you have, we were talking at one point about just reaching out to PVPC as well, just to see their land planner type people and see who might attend. So we might even try to incorporate them in the meeting as well, just to see.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's Ken Comia or somebody else, but.
This is not a new issue. The town has explored not only this property, but separately explored the notion of incentives for a diversity of housing and mixed uses.
Yeah.
And the specific vehicle would be Chapter 40R. This planner will tell you it's very complex and unusual compared to the rest of our zoning code. We would be providing substantial incentives for affordable housing.
Okay.
However, the onus is upon the town to define what our design standards would be, because the town gives up many other kinds of regulatory oversight. So I think it's 2 months beyond time for the key boards and committees to get briefed up on this.
Yeah.
Richard Harris has previously made an extemporaneous 10-minute presentation to the planning board, and I know that he'd be ready to go, having shepherded that very same process in Southampton.
So my question with that would be, would we not want to include the housing authority?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. It is explicitly planning board, housing authority,
Okay.
select board because
Yeah.
of our
Right.
leadership role, and the one that I forgot is the bylaw committee. Because the housing authority was jeeped up to move forward with this as a overlay bylaw some 2 or 3 years ago.
But that would all be under the zoning bylaws. It's not under the bylaw, the general bylaw committee, I don't believe.
Okay, so
Probably
they
under
only,
zoning.
they only pay attention to general bylaws. Thank you. I
We only
didn't know
focus
that.
on the bylaw committee, advisory committee only focuses on general
All right,
bylaws. All the zoning ones.
Skinnies down the knee. but,
Yeah, all the zoning ones.
Absolutely. It starts with the housing authority,
Yeah,
really.
okay.
Because
Because I know they've reached out to me saying that they really want to be involved. So we'll be sure that whenever we can find some mutual
but
dates,
they
we'll do
are
that.
unable to schedule time with Richard Harris. So I would ask that our town administrator reach out and find some time.
Yeah, no,
Our
we'll-
volunteer planning board chair is not
Yeah.
getting.
No, we'll figure out some timing and get that going and see how we can do that in
Thank you,
terms of
Jen, for
Richard's
that
availability as well.
Teamwork.
Okay, what else?
You also, you touched on the housing authority, and I think the message for this board is you
Yeah.
want to join in on that joint meeting when we get to there. The other thing I think that's important to bring up is the technology committee, ad hoc technology committee met and discussed the fiber optic network that we're working to implement in town. Last we reported that we had met with someone who had gone through a similar experience from the city of Chicopee, and he had provided Scott with a number of contacts for organizations that may help guide us as a town through this process. Someone that can be an outside voice to help in reviewing what our partner towns that we're looking at are proposing and really help us choose the best path forward for Southampton. So the follow-up action is we're trying to set up meetings with those organizations to hear what they have to say, what's their perspective, how they can help Southampton, and eventually this would arrive at a request for an agreement with them to help work through this process. So that, I believe, is the most important things I have to report on.
All right, very good. Yeah, Stephen, anything else?
Just PS on the planning board, because I want to distinguish two separate needs for outside planning assistance. We addressed the educational programming about Chapter 40R as potential zoning change. And I think that is a very small and near-term need with a person who's already under contract to the town. I would distinguish that from the longer-term need, which has a short-term or middle-term component and as we grow the town component. That is for staff resources to handle land permitting, land and natural resource issues broadly. And the first issue, and it may be separate from settling such a person as a town employee, is assistance in the land planning for 117 to 125. Regardless of zoning, but it's very much influenced by the zoning we envision for that parcel. We need someone to help our boards and committees through a process of collecting their good information, drawing from their good feasibility studies, housing production plans, all of these important master plan. We need some help in the short and middle term to be able to take that out, given certainty about zoning, and say to a housing developer, here's what the town would like to see on this property.
Yeah. No, I think the whole idea of one of our early next steps has got to be to identify that land use planner type entity, right?
So a month ago, I gave you 3 names, and I've circulated those broadly. So
Yeah.
if there's an update on that, I'd be very happy to hear that.
I don't know that there is at this point. You've reached out to anybody at this point in time. We've got a few other things that intervened in the meantime, the personnel issues.
The plate is always ever full, and I had offered
I know.
my services.
So we'll get back around on that, Scott.
I could help you draw up a scope, and
We need some
I'm at your service.
some level of something there, so we'll talk about that a little bit more and figure out how we can get that going. We need to get that
Let's
under
put some words on the
play.
page.
Yep. Okay, anything else with that? Other
No,
committees?
in the last 2
Greenway
weeks
Committee
since we
meet?
met. Pardon me?
Greenway Committee meeting?
You know, I did miss one. It
Okay.
hadn't yet gotten synced up on my calendar.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right. They should be, hopefully, meetings pretty regularly, but maybe taking a little bit break in the
I
summertime.
think that's a fair break now.
Yeah, there may be, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. John, anything going on school-wise?
No, we
otherwise?
had a special emergency PPP meeting. It's coming up later on the agenda, so I'll defer to then. And then the only other comment is we still need to fill 2 seats on the Hampshire Regional School Committee. In a perfect world, that should be done before September 1st.
Okay, very good, okay. All right, yeah, and just on mine, in terms of nothing going on right yet with master plan, we'll probably meet sometime in August. There's a bylaw advisory committee meeting at the end of July, but there are only 2 of us on the committee right now, so we don't have enough to really totally do much in terms of voting and having action, so we're really looking for anybody who would like to serve on the bylaw advisory committee. And then we had renominated several people for the cost efficiencies committee at our last meeting, and so people need to reach out to, or need to catch up with Lucy and get sworn in again. Those were yearly appointments, and Lucy, I think, is around mostly in the morning still at this point in time, so please try to reach her when you need to get sworn in, and then we can schedule a meeting for that. Nothing new on grants. We haven't heard anything yet. We're actually expecting both on the historical one and on the firefighter grant one by the end of the month. So hopefully by the time we meet next time, we will have had an answer one way or another on both of those grants, but nothing right now. Okay. All right, let's move into some new business. FY23 status on the audit, Scott. What's happening there?
I still have to do the engagement letter with Markham, so that'll probably be next
The next meeting? Okay.
Yeah, but we're getting all the preliminary information to them, the OPED stuff,
That's for the engagements for FY24. FY23, they're working
Oh,
on already. Yeah. We need to do the engagement letter for 24.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, sorry.
Okay. But 23, they're working on already? Yeah.
Did we ever get did the select board ever get the FY22 formal responses from the town?
Not yet, those are almost ready. There was a little bit of confusion. I sent a draft to Markham just for review, and there was actually a different section regarding the federal audit I need to reply to, so.
So let's get that done before the next meeting and get that done so we can close that one off. That's been hanging out far too long on that one. Okay, so next meeting we will put forth the engagement letter for FY24. Okay, let's make sure we have that on the agenda. All right, ARPA financials, ARPA quarterly reports. Just to say, here we are at the end of the month, and this has been the time that we usually do take a look at financial reports. Bradley's been keeping an ongoing summary. You've got in your packages, and it's up. I've got to post the newest one up on the website, but it's a 5 or 6 sheet Excel document that looks at all the invoices that have been put forward, what the expenses have been, and it's categorized into the wage ones are broken out separately for those that are under the wage scale, which includes the school, which includes Concom, and had included the Board of Health Director, and let's see, who else is on there?
Richard Harris.
Yes, the Planning Board Consultant, I believe, and the Concom agent. Those are the ones that are still under the salary part. And then there's the final sheet that does talk about the balances for each of these. And again, I will, just got this report myself, so I'll go back through it with Bradley. And a couple of these things are moving forward. It's good to see a lot of these projects. You have in the package as well, the tracking sheet from Judy. So several of these projects are actually completed now. They've turned in their final report and, what their status is of their money according to them. And I just want to go through and match those figures with what Bradley has and be sure that we're in sync there, but it is good to see that a couple things, if you remember the stormwater culvert grant that was under the Clean Water Act that Randall's been working on with Ty and Bond, that is actually moving forward, and we should be starting to get some reimbursements, I think, back into the ARPA pool for that, because we had to put out the full 140,000, and we should be getting around 84,000 of that reimbursed to us as the grant part of it. So that is going to be happening, I think, soon. They're actually making progress on that. We've got a couple things that we still do need to get started. One is the enterprise study, right, Scott, the stormwater enterprise study, which I think you've had initial discussions at least with Ty and Bond on, as well as the sewer feasibility study. So they'll be starting up in this coming quarter, I would assume, both of them. But we're moving along fairly well on that. So Judy's doing a pretty good job keeping up with the tracking chart and getting reports in, reminding people for their reports. So a lot of these, like I say, are done according to what they had asked us for, and there's probably, I don't know, 8 or 10, 12 at the most that are kind of ongoing, and you've got those quarterly reports in your packets. If you've got a chance to read through them, if you've got any questions, I'll be glad to be that point person to go back and write an email to the project and ask them about things if there are things that are not clear. Some people are doing a better job than others in terms of writing in detail, but we'll take what we get. Yes, Cindy?
I have a question. The Board of Assessors actually completed their need for the ARPA funds and turned over 2,000 and some money.
Right.
And the question came up today, when money is returned back, is there an opportunity, if the need arose, to reapply I shouldn't say reapply, to apply for for a project? How does that work?
So right now, this money is available to be spent until the end of December 2026. It all has to be obligated, however, by December 2024. So that's why I want to keep track of any monies that are left over in projects.
Right.
So we know how much money we have, so
Yeah.
that if something else comes forward as a legitimate project, I would hesitate to say, personally, from my point of view, I'm not in favor of supporting salaries going forward. I'd rather support projects rather than salaries going forward, if possible. But we'll see what we've got. So that's why I want to get a good handle on things. And where we are still a little bit tricky, we're not having a good clarity still on the school salaries for the behavioral education team. We had a good beginning on it, but it kind of fell off a few months ago, and so we've got to be sure that we're getting the right accounting.
So
on
just
that.
just along those lines, because this is like the third meeting, which means it's 6 weeks now that this came up. Again, resetting everything and everything that happened at central office. But
Yeah.
Norris is a department of this town, which means it falls under the control of the town accountant. So I think maybe it's time we kind of shifted focus, and instead of emailing central office asking for their help, that we just take the bull by the reins and
Yeah.
clean up our own department.
You can try. I mean,
All the payroll records are sitting in the treasurer's office. It should be a easy reconciled task, even for a volunteer to do. Never mind highly competent and compensated individuals.
Okay. No, good point. I mean, we've reached out to the principal, I know, and then that led us to the central office. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think part of the issue is just, how detailed are people, I guess that's a good point, we can check that out, in terms of the level of detail that they're putting in on the payroll itself, and if they're charging it to the right account and so forth. So there may be things that are just cross-charged and, just not in the right place. So that's what really needs to be ironed out. So Cindy, to answer your question, there will be some funds, I would guess, maybe 100,000 at the most or something, I don't know, offhand, that we might need to reprogram, depending on the money coming back in from a couple of the studies that, or the work that Randall's team is doing on the culvert study. Some of that will come back in and we'll get reimbursed for it. So we should, I would say certainly by October, we ought to be looking at if there's any other projects. We should put a call out, and once we know really where we are on this, I think, and then see what else we can get, because we do have to obligate anything before the end of December. Okay? Dan?
Can we add, maybe I probably missed it somewhere along the line, but maybe if we haven't talked about it, can we add to the other necessary business discussion of the assistant town accountant when we get to that?
Okay, yeah, we haven't
Status of
got there
this?
yet, but yeah.
Cool.
Yep. Okay, all right, so any questions just in general in terms of ARPA? I mean, I know, Stephen, was that where you were looking for, or, I mean, things that you need to,
That's helpful.
Yeah, okay.
That's the right level for me. And clarity that you're seeking these updates so that we can identify the residual funds and provide an open opportunity to compete for those
should we have some
at the
funds?
time
left over?
TBD in the fall.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah,
Because I think, and also for our audit trail as well. So we've got, the application tracker, we've got the report tracker, and the quarterly reports, just so that we've got a good paper trail for whenever we do get audited on this. So that's really the main, was the main impetus to start this whole thing, way back when. Okay, next up, Scott, the draft gift policy. I think we had a discussion on it. We had some suggested changes, so I think at this point, we're just looking at the changes, but this would then still have to be posted for 10 days, I believe. So it's a misnomer to put on the agenda here that it's going to be a vote tonight. I don't think we can vote tonight for our policy. But go ahead and walk us through where you are with that, Scott.
So the policy, a lot of the blanks were put specific to Southampton. I know that John had mentioned doing a recognition to anyone that does donate, so I put in some language for that. Cleaned up the Parks Commission and fixed the typo. I also got rid of J, the benches and the other parts of it, so.
There's a lot more, detail.
I think, going back, I think I got most of the changes.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I recall is most of the changes that we had talked about, I think. Mostly was shortening it to make it a little bit more manageable. Yeah. All right. So I believe what we do, if I'm not mistaken, we would take this as our final read-through. If anybody has any comments and questions, by all means, let's ask them. But the next step would be to put this out on the website, as well as to post it on Lucy's bulletin board for 10 days. So we would actually take a vote on this at our next select board meeting to put this into effect at that point in time. That's how we've done our previous policies for the select board. And for anybody who's listening, on the select board page of the website, there is a separate category of select board policies. So you would see those there, and this will be posted on that page of the select board. Any comments or questions?
So moved.
Yeah, okay. John? Yeah.
Letter J was about naming rights, right?
Letter J we took out. That was
Right,
the...
but that's what it was, right?
Yes.
So so right now, with that being removed, which is fine, it leaves it silent. I wonder if the other course of action should be putting in the letter J and just referencing the separate naming policy that we have. Just, naming rights or whatever it was called, C policy, because there's a whole separate policy written on that.
There's a bylaw.
Or the bylaw, see the bylaw.
Yes, there is a bylaw on naming. So
Just so an outsider reading this,
yeah.
it's clear, right now it's silent, which is, it's 6-1, half does the other.
Sure.
But to an outsider who's reading this, it doesn't say anything about that, so I can ask, well, no, it sends you to the bylaw,
Okay.
right? Which then is another 4 pages, but that one's very clear on. And I could go either way, put it in or take it out, but that's my only
But I
feedback.
think, without going into the detail, but we could reference it at least. That's a possibility.
And not to try and paraphrase it here.
No.
Just see bylaw.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and we could put up the number of
As it
the,
may change.
we could even put up the number of the bylaw or something as it's posted on our website, but we can,
Because with our new bylaw system, right, we're not changing numbers.
they've already
We're
been,
codified.
it's been codified down, so
That's
those are
it.
changed, those are there. Let's see if it comes up. Yeah.
While you look that up. So I'd move to approve this and release it for public input, or public viewing
Right.
with that one
And Scott,
modification.
I believe you'd already circulated it to the department heads or had it at your meeting and so forth, right? So, okay, yeah. Okay, I'm going to find that somewhere here. Wish I could find that. Can't pull it up right now, but it's right there somewhere. So I think that would be our next step to get that done, and then we can do that. So I think that's a okay idea, John, to just reference the, that bylaw that's reviewing that. That would be fine.
We don't have to do that at this moment.
No, we can put it in there. Yeah, we can put it.
Approval to post for hearing and continue the process.
Yeah, yep. So the hearing is, or the reading of it is there, and so it's just open for public comment now. And like I say, we'll be posted in those two places, okay? And hopefully we will get through our 10 days and then take it up at our next meeting, okay? All right.
Do we have to formally vote?
Huh?
Do we vote it, or?
Vote to go ahead and allow it to be posted for public consumption, yes.
As amended?
Yep.
All right, all right.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, green energy, next steps. This is our famous energy projects here. How are we doing with these things?
Good. So we finalized the pre-approval letters and the letter of approvals with Resource Innovations for the police department, town hall, and library to do the lighting installation. We don't have any dates yet for actual installation or anything like that. You know, the Commonwealth Massachusetts approved it. It had to go back to Eversource. Their engineering department had to look at it over a few more times, and now we finally have the engagement letter, so that's all done. And then I do just need to get an update on the North School, because that's a different scope outside of the light installation, so that's going to be a systems, I don't know what they call it, control company that does that part, so that'll be a separate company.
But one would hope that we could get this done within the next 2 or 3 months and get these things installed.
It has to be done by November, I believe, is the deadline.
That would be good, I hope. Yeah, this has been around for quite a while, so that would be good. It's okay, good. Any questions for anybody on that? No? All right, next up, Wi-Fi installation status.
So I hope to have a time for this Friday for the wiring company to come in. I guess they have to finish it up by doing drops, I think, which is, they expose it through the ceiling, and then Novus would come in probably a week after this Friday, if we can get the wiring company in, just to connect it to the network and finalize everything.
Good. So that's moving along without too many hitches at this point in time.
The fire department's going to be a challenge that we might have to figure out some funding for that and how we're going to do that, because
it wasn't part of the original plan, was it?
No. So we're going to have to do the initial install and then figure out, along with the managed support that we want to add with the fire department as well under the contract that we have for all of our IT services. Part of that will more than likely, they'll have to be connected to our network so they can properly service them. How they do it, they'll probably be, I don't know the terminology, but there'll be like a router or something that'll connect it, and we won't have to pay 2 charter bills. At least they can just run off of our internet. So
save us a little bit of money. Yeah. Okay. All right. And I did just find that. So it's chapter 66 of our general bylaws.
Oh,
okay. Okay. All right. Hazard mitigation plan startup.
we have our kickoff meeting on August 15th with Mimi Kaplan from Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. A little bit later than we'd hoped to get to it, but we're finally kicking it off. And I know that I haven't talked to her in depth. I know that she's been doing some background work on getting stuff ready for us, so.
Good, and so that the people that are going to be involved are police and fire, Board of Health, highway.
Highway,
yeah.
Yep, town administrator.
Yeah, and yourself, yeah. So half a dozen people are involved in that committee, very good. And that's to update our hazard mitigation plan itself, which is also posted on our website. Good, all right. So next up, College Highway land acquisition update. You mentioned the wetlands delineation has been done. Where are we with other steps on that?
I have to touch base with Katie to see where we are with the title search, and then we have to discuss the borrowing as well. So that'll probably be for next meeting. We'll go in depth on, I'll ask Jen to stop by and maybe we can have a discussion on that.
Okay, all right. And then following up with Stephen in terms of that land use planning part of that
Oh, yeah.
as well.
Yep.
And so let's see if we can kind of talk about all that at our next meeting, okay?
Great.
Manhattan Bridge, we've talked about it a little bit. I'm not sure if there's much more to say. Select board members, you've got some communication back and forth between Art Lawrence and John Furman, who did an independent review of the bridge design, just to get an idea of what he's thinking might need to be done. So it's definitely a challenge before us if we have to go out on the street and put out a call for proposals and certainly find out money to pay for it. But yeah, Cindy?
So I have a question. You earlier said perhaps the 50,000 that will go away at the end of the year, but
Well, unless we
if we
can
were
use
to
it.
if we were to utilize it, and I assume it's part of what would be approved by the state, if we were to utilize it to purchase the top part of the bridge, then where were we going to put it? Are we going to hold it someplace?
We'd have to store it somewhere, yeah.
Yeah.
Highway garage or somewhere. I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
It's in pieces. It's not.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, I understand
Yeah.
that. So that's one question I had.
Yeah, we'd have to store it.
You know, I
somewhere.
read the correspondence, not being an engineer, and it just seems like a very large engineering project to put those pilings in, or whatever they're called, you know? Concerning, anyway, concerning
Yeah.
that. Is it ultimately going to be a different project? That's all I'm wondering. And
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that's what we have to put our heads together and sort of figure out that. And so I know from between the Concom and Art are sort of working on that. And then Scott, you were involved, and we were talking about also calling the bridge company themselves
Yeah, yeah.
and talking to them, because the bridge itself is a fine enough design, but you know, did we misunderstand something?
That's
we
right.
being Concom when they applied for the grant, in terms of the level of technicality for installation, or has something really changed, or whatever. So I think we'll have at least a brief conversation with them as well. So Scott was going to reach out and give them a call, probably on Friday, and see what they have to say about how complicated this bridge usually has been, with all that they've done. How complicated has this been to install around their various places? And is this
Good.
something unusual that we're running into, or are we overreacting to something? I
that's-
don't know.
those are my questions.
I want to be sure that we're doing the right thing. I mean,
Exactly.
we certainly want a safe bridge, I mean, no doubt about it, but it doesn't need to look like the New Garska Bridge on East Street. It was a suspension bridge that people were, you know, hanging onto ropes and falling through and walking across the river, and, you know, that went on for a long time. So this is a major improvement, but, you know, I don't think we had thought that it needed, you know, such major support, shall we say. But obviously, it's got to be engineered correctly if it
That's
isn't
right.
right now. So that might have been, you know, an omission in the design understanding or the grant application. But there is $50,000 that if we can use it, I think we would try to use it.
Okay, good.
Just so we don't, you know, so we can keep in good graces somewhat with Mass Trails as well, who's been very helpful for us. So yeah, we'll keep on continuing on that and
You've answered my questions. Thanks.
talk with other folks about that, but, okay.
Would it be possible for me to get an electronic copy of the engineering design and the review that was done by the person
It's in
mentioned, John?
It's in your packet.
That was the independent review of Furman. There was the original design that had gone out, yeah, from the,
Furman?
the person that had been contacted by Concom. I'm forgetting who it was, the firm.
VHB? No, the
no.
other one?
No.
Oh, it's the
We had
man
Furman-
named...
We did have
Yep.
John Furman give his review of that, because that's what shocked everybody, that it came back at a
Right.
couple $100,000.
It's
Okay,
a,
so that,
The
we've got
document
engineer,
that
yeah.
spells out the expensive
right,
bridge abutments.
We've got it, so Scott could forward that, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be fine. We have that on hand. That's what started this whole thing going really upside down and backwards here, but, okay. Any other business that can't wait? Dan, you had something you wanted to suggest?
Yeah, I just we talked about the accountant in town, and I was part of assigning more work to the accountant. I wanted to make sure we're working on getting him an assistant. So I just wanted to get an update. Maybe something has happened, I just had missed it, so.
Yeah, Scott mentioned it in his report.
Oh, he did? I'm sorry, I
You've
missed
interviewed
it.
with Bradley, how many people? Several?
We had 7 interviews, and we're looking at moving forward with 2.
Thank you. Right, thank you.
So there'll be another round of interviews?
I think so.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to talk to Bradley on Thursday about that
Okay.
and see how he wants to move forward.
Okay, cool, good. So that should be something that will come to conclusion. The only other thing I have is, you have in your packets is something that had come up at the, oh, sorry, I forgot to mention in my reports. There hasn't been a meeting lately of public safety or senior center building, but there will be coming up in the next week or two. Both of those committees will be meeting. The senior center building committee has asked us to take a look just at their charge. They are asking to just increase the number of members from 7 to 9. They want to have enough members as we move forward into a more technical, I guess, and a more, the next phases of architectural design, building, whatever. They want to have, the right technical expertise and so forth on hand. We have a brand-new board chair who has been only on the COA very, very short time as well. So we want to be sure that we've got some institutional knowledge and so forth. So at this point in time, no names coming forward, but just simply if there were any opposition to just changing it to 9 voting members rather than 7. That's really basically it at this point in time. So I told them I would bring it forward. Any thoughts or comments?
Do they have people in mind? Because
No, not at this point.
if they don't, and it's a board of 9, and they have trouble forming a quorum.
Well, and we've got to approve it, but then they will be recruiting, I think, but they can, they can still meet. They need 5 people, 5 voting
Correct,
members.
and they don't have any trouble getting them.
Usually haven't had trouble
Okay,
having a
good.
quorum. Yeah.
Okay.
No, that hasn't been a problem. So that's not been an issue with this committee, at least. So yeah, it's basically just to try and expand it and then, allow for other folks from town that might come in. Because right now, out of the 7, there's the COA board chair, the COA director, and a member of the select board, which is me, plus Scott. So there's only 4 right now from the town residents, so they're hoping to expand that
Okay.
a little bit.
Do you need a motion on that?
I would, just to change that.
So I move
if
that
anybody-
we increase the number of members of the Senior Center Building Committee from 7 till 9.
Okay.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, please.
So the extra 2 seats, are we going to restrict those to residents? Or not? Because your argument right there was,
Yeah.
there's 4 now, and we want a bigger resident. That's what I heard. That's why
Yeah,
I'm
no, I
just
did
asking.
say that. I don't know that in some ways you can make the argument that, if we didn't restrict it to residents, then we get, some outside expertise. Like with Concom, we've been able to pull in Nicole from neighboring Montgomery, for example. So I don't know that we need to restrict it. We haven't said in here we did say the 4 are additional. We do say, I'm sorry, the 4 in the original charge, it does say shall be town residents. So yeah, we'd have to modify that too if we wanted to. So any thought on that? I didn't have any particular discussion on that with them.
So if, just say hypothetically, the 2 that come forward are non-residents, what would the ratio be of the 9? Right, 2 new people come in and they're not residents. How many non-residents would be on that committee? Would it be more than a majority?
It would be probably, say those 2, it would be the COA director, who I would assume might not be a town member, but we don't know that yet, as we'll be recruiting. 4, 5, 6. So I'd.
But you're counting the town administrator there, right?
No, I'm not counting him. He's a non-voting member.
All right.
He's a non-voting member, so he's actually, there's 7 voting members. So out of that, possibly the COA director and possibly 2 others, so whatever that is now.
So I guess
3,
I'd be comfortable with leaving it open with the caveat, provided that at no time should non-residents make up a majority of that committee.
Okay, got it,
And
yeah.
then second part, I'm just offering this for discussion. And then the second thing that I would suggest, based on what Cindy said, or thought, the first question about the quorum issue, is that this change not to take effect for 60 days. Enough time to go out, do the recruitment, so between now and then they can meet under the current rules, and then you add those 2 bodies.
Okay,
Something along those lines.
yeah, okay. No, that sounds interesting. And I had a question too, when you look at the second part in here, and I don't recall how our discussion went on this, but nothing in the charge shall prevent or require the select board to enforce the membership, may act in the best interest of the town as applicants come forward. I'm not totally sure. So that kind of goes to that.
That gave us our way out if
that
we really
notion
wanted a non-resident.
If we did find some non-residents, right, so.
Which could still be the case. It's
Yeah.
just, I mean,
I was admittedly curious what was imagined by that sentence. It
yeah.
could cover this, certainly.
Right, so if we really had a stellar person and it meant that there were going to be more non-residents, in my mind, more non-residents than not,
Yeah.
as long as the credentials were there to justify when I got challenged on the street.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think the priority should probably be town residents, but should we have, an exemplary person with real good qualifications, this shouldn't hinder us. So if I'm hearing this right, this would be to amend Cindy's motion perhaps, to go from 7 to 9, not to take effect for 60 days, and leave it open to also having non-residents as long as they do not form a majority on the committee. Is
In a
that-
perfect world. Yep, in a perfect world.
Yes.
Because by leaving that other sentence in there, we could still
Right.
do that.
So we don't need to, we don't need to modify that piece, really, do we?
No, no.
Can I just verbally say I agree to the amendment as you just stated it?
Something like that.
Because I can't requote it.
Yeah, something along that line. So I think that instead of the second line, so it'd be 9 voting members, and then the additional 6 voting members, or preference shall be given to town residents or something for the additional 6 members, 6 voting members.
Careful. I second the revised motion.
Okay.
Right.
We'll
And take effect 60 days.
yeah, take effect 60 days from now. Okay. I think we've generally got it. We'll tinker with it and.
No more words.
Yeah, we'll just modify it slightly here. But yes, so I think our second paragraph allows us to have the flexibility to have somebody from out of town, should we find somebody
Aye.
with the qualifications. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
And we're still under other business, right?
We're on any other
Other
business.
necessary?
Yep. Any
Yeah,
other.
so not for discussion tonight, but I would like to, if the chair could figure out a way through Mass General Law to allow us to have an executive session about, regarding the land at Zero College Highway. I have some questions that would go upon negotiations, not necessarily on purchasing the property, that's done. It's what are the next legal steps? And I'd rather do that in an executive session versus a public session.
Okay,
I think it'd take maybe 15 or 20 minutes for me to get my questions out, and then
okay.
we're all on the same page.
All right. Maybe we could add that to our next meeting? Yeah, okay. Sounds good. All right. All right, anything on the old business, on East Street, capital asset planning, surplus equipment, or cannabis negotiations update? Maybe the last one, if anything?
Yeah, I did just have a brief conversation, an introductory meeting over the phone with Ezra, who is the Dreamers consultant. Probably next meeting we can do an executive session now that I have an idea of what they're kind of looking forward. I know that the CCC is in a bit of a disarray right now on the state level, with the way that host community agreements are supposed to be. So far, haven't approved one yet, and the time is coming up for us to get a renewal with Dreamers. So we're still kind of in a murky gray area right now.
So they haven't come out with new legislation definitively yet on?
They did 2 years ago, canceling all the current host agreements.
Nothing new to replace it.
They do have a model agreement that they haven't actually officially adopted yet or approved. A few communities have submitted it with a few minor changes, and they've sent it back. So.
Okay, so let's add that to a potential executive session then too, okay?
And we're talking about August 6th?
Yes. August 6th will be our next meeting. That's
Plan an
correct.
extra few minutes?
Everybody's still around, hopefully? Yeah, it'll be 2 weeks from today. Yep. All right. If there's nothing else under old business, we know we've got the surplus equipment disposal, which I said I would help work with Judy on to help get that up on the website or whatever we need to do, the auction site, to get rid of all these crazy old computers and relics that are down in the basement of all of our buildings here. And some of the capital asset planning we'll take up again when we meet at the Cost Efficiencies Committee. Okay, next up, personnel change form. We have a PCF for Deborah Radway, emergency hire interim council on aging director. Scott?
Do you have the original?
I don't, do we have the paperwork? I don't have the paper from PQB or,
I can tell, I can give you some background.
okay.
And then I think it'll be, next steps will be
Yep.
self-evident. But, so the committee met on Monday night, took this up. It was pretty much the sole item on the agenda. I think we spent about a half hour on it. At the end of the discussion, the final motion that was voted on our third attempt, was to approve it, but with a modification adjusting the compensation from $37.53 an hour to $31.43 an hour. And then defer it, and then send it down to the select board. So just background, as you know, PPP can do one of three things. They can take no action and it just sits up there in a dead file. They can refer it out and defer it to the select board, or they can take a vote, and then whatever vote they take comes to the select board, either up or down.
Okay. So have they approved both the emergency 2-week and the temporary 12-week?
Yes, we were in trying to conserve paper, so it was all wrapped into a single
Yeah, I see that.
document.
There's various boxes checked here,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
But the intent was that the effective date was to be today,
Okay.
the 23rd.
All right.
And it's the emergency
Temporary.
right, up to 12 weeks, non-benefit, 19 hours.
Right, okay. Okay, and so this would be, so I'll turn it over to Scott. So this would be less than the current director, or the previous director had been working at 32?
Yeah.
If I'm correct? So this would be a 19-hour a week. And then, so if I'm hearing John correctly, what we have on the PCF is a request for $37.53 an hour, and John is saying that at PQB you approved 31 something.
$31.43, which is what the existing hourly rate was in matching the budget. Now, there was a lot of discussion about the definition of whether or not the budget could support it. And one piece of information that was missing, again, if we go back to when we were having these issues in the assessor's office and we were moving money back and forth, when we did get a PCF from the town accountant, on the back of it was a very detailed mathematical equation that either proved there was enough money there or not. That wasn't submitted on this one. And then the treasurer, who is a member of the committee, noted that there's a payout still to be done that has to hit that budget. And then the PCF itself was only using general fund, had not allowed or called into play the formula grant money, and we know there's $3,000 of that coming out in the budget, $2,912.
But don't forget, we'd done some voting on that.
We did, I got the budget right up.
But we
still had.
we modified and put the Council on Aging Director full-time
enough.
under the budget, so
Fair
that
enough.
they could use it for
Then I withdraw that
supplies.
one comment, but that was not pointed out to us Monday
Okay.
night.
So I believe they chose to use a formula grant for ongoing supplies and so forth, and we approved a 32-hour directorship under the current budget without using that part. The other formula budget is
So
used for
I would
the other
just-
personnel, not the director.
Okay, so the number that I have here for the budget that we approved was $49,588. You divide that by 3143, and you come up to a 30-hour work week. So I don't know where the 32 is, but regardless, the numbers weren't there. And then the committee, who's charged to make sure that it's the same practices applied to everybody across the board and not to look underneath the sheet, could not go forward with a $6 an hour increase for a new person coming in when our existing other 20-some-odd employees are going on year 3 now without an adjustment based on this compensation study that we're now in our second version of.
Okay, I hear that argument, but, okay, Scott, you want to, from your point of view, I mean, why are we going with this request? I mean, this looks like it's nowhere near the 31 or 32 hours of the previous director, so I'm understanding that with the increase that you're putting forward here, this $5 or $6, say more an hour, does that balance, how does that balance out with the 19 hours that you're requiring versus this? I guess is the question.
So with the 19 hours, even with the payout of 2 weeks, it's gonna take at least a month and a half, 2 months to be able to find a person, have them start, 30 days to advertise, a couple weeks to interview, and then once we select a candidate, if they're currently employed, it's gonna take a couple weeks for them to give their resignation. So the start date's a little bit away. With the 19 hours per week, even at the higher rate, it'll be about $300 in the positive from that account, as well as not paying any health insurance for that position as well. So there'll be enough money in the budget to cover it. We also might look at extending some of the hours of the current employees as well, with some of the additional monies there, just to make sure that there's full coverage. As far as Deborah, she's a former assistant town administrator, former town administrator. One of her specialties, especially in Western Mass, now that she's retired, she can only work a certain amount as a consultant, and then if she's actually a municipal employee, there's restrictions on amount of hours that she can work and then earn as well. For this position, it has to be classified as an employee. We can't do it as a consultant, mostly because that would be illegal, because then you're trying to get away around workers' comp laws and unemployment laws. And so if we have an existing position and the person performs similar duties, they'd have to be classified as an employee. Her specialty is really kind of stepping into these types of situations. And, she did it with South Hadley and Hadley, multiple other communities throughout Massachusetts, to come in as a temporary person and provide some support. She's not interested in being a permanent anywhere. And, she has the knowledge base to kind of do the administrative duties. She doesn't want anything to do with programming or health or anything like that. We have a very capable staff that would already do that. And they've already, over the last couple of days, shown that they have a lot of ideas, ways that they can move forward. So really her charge is just to do the administrative stuff, the payroll, make sure the lights are on, maybe look at, do a quick audit to see what can be for the next person that comes in permanently, what might be some good starting points. And even today, she was able to start with the billing and with the grants and going through all the old emails.
As we said, there's a couple of grants that have just finished, and there's a new grant that's just been awarded, so somebody needs to be on top of that, for sure.
So this is really just an emergency hire. It's not the optimal situation to do a transition like this suddenly, but it's, my concern is making sure that the services continue, the lights are on, that the seniors can still get all the services, and more importantly, that the staff gets the support that they need to do their job, because they're really the experts in their field. So it is more expensive than the previous director was earning, but I think given the experience, and most times when you do hire a consultant or an interim, you end up paying more per hour, because that's just the nature of the work.
Right.
So, because we're limited to this, she can't be a vendor or a consultant. So, it's probably at a little bit of a discount between the $50 to $100 most consultants would normally earn.
So what I'm understanding, though, this would be, in your thought, given your time frame of what you laid out, we're a couple months away, easily, 2.5 to 3 months away from having a permanent person on board, most likely. So August, September-ish, maybe by October, if we're lucky.
So are we being asked as a board to determine the pay rate here, or?
Well, PQB did not approve this particular pay rate, so that's the challenge. Are we in agreement with this $37.53 and the 19 hours?
Yeah.
Which, if Scott, I just want to be clear. So with that, laying that out, say for a 3-month period, that math, whatever that is, there would still be enough left in that budget line to cover a new person coming in, who assumedly would be back more at what the previous director's salary range was. A new director would not be starting most likely at this range. Is that what I'm understanding?
Right.
They'd be back closer to the 30, 32 or something, most likely.
And hopefully we'll have the compensation survey done by that time as well. So we'll have a little bit more of an idea of what it should be.
Yes, that needs to get out of the way too. But there would be enough money in the budget to get us through the rest of the year with a new person coming on in October, November.
Yes, we'll make sure that we're always on budget and that no hours would be worked without having the budget in place. So it's kind of a higher rate at a lower amount of work right now. I think Deb, it'll probably be a month or two. Hopefully by that time we'll be very far into the recruitment process, and, you know, we may not even need her for the full 3 months if we can get things running the way they need to be.
And she's okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
So,
Yeah, questions? Yeah.
Cindy,
So I need to understand this. So one part of this is the dollars and cents part, and you just explained that. Thank you very much. The second part is the role of PQB and the role of Select Board. And that's what I'd like to be understanding this. In other words, we're talking about this at length. Can the Select Board, does it have to go back to PQB if we don't agree with the way they presented it? Or the Select Board's opinion, the final opinion?
My understanding is John gave us 3 options of what PQB can do and has done, one of which
Okay.
is to refer it to Select Board.
Okay.
Which means that we do have the final.
Right, Select Board can accept the recommendation, they can
Yeah.
modify it, or
Okay.
they can send it back with comments.
Yeah.
Or they can take no action and just sit on it.
Yeah.
But the Select Board has the authority to, you could make this a 40-hour-a-week position right now at $50 an hour and pass it.
Okay.
You'd have a budget issue.
You
but-
would have a budget issue, I
So,
think,
and
yes.
before I lose my opportunity to speak, I have one more question. I don't know that we can speak for certain, but what if this individual, Ms. Radway, gets here, and we'll just use her for an example, and finds this is not a satisfactory thing for her, and she leaves? I mean, I suspect you're pretty confident she won't, because you know this person, and she's done this kind of interim work before, but where does that leave us? You know, I guess we just have to punt with that if that was to happen.
I mean, knowing Deb, she wouldn't just leave
Right.
on the same day, so at the very least, it would give us a little bit of time to prepare for another person to take over,
Okay.
internal, external.
Are we expecting this person to also assist in orientation of a new hire who might not have this level of expertise? Would that be part, would you see an overlap? That's my question.
Probably not an overlap, but I would ask Deb to put together a report on what she just as a new set of eyes.
Okay.
Just looking at a department from a fresh perspective.
Okay.
Working with the employees and kind of helping whoever does take over permanently to have that transition plan.
Okay, so part of what I'm seeing is this person has, and I just read her whole resume, and the fact that she can jump in on this kind of new situation, jump on, running immediately into what, and identifying issues because that's what she's good at, is a little different than just being a regular employee, because that's what you're expecting. That's what we're expecting as a town, to have this level of expertise to assist when the position is open and the need is there. And that's all I have to say and ask.
Okay, yeah. Stephen?
yeah, so I'm going to come back to the question of can we afford it, and I'm going to boil it right down. Different rate of compensation, different number of hours, no benefits, other unrelated liabilities and payout. So the payout is one time. I didn't mean that. The go-forward run rate compared to what we have now, or had when we had a employee at whatever. Are you saying, Scott, that the weekly outlay for this role is less, acknowledging we'd be getting fewer hours?
Yeah, so the 3143 at 32 hours is $1,005.76, and the 3753 at 19 hours is $713.07. So roughly about $300.
Okay, great. And in terms of the question of the PCB, I'm satisfied that we've distinguished an emergency interim hire from the ongoing director role, and I would be supportive of the higher rate with all due respect to the PCB.
Okay. John?
So just a couple points to clarify, and I'm, again, preference this as I often do. I'm happy to be the minority report here. But the reduced hours is only going to generate, assuming that this person stays for the full 12 weeks, an extra 132 hours. Of that 132, we're going to have to use 36 hours of that compensation to make up that difference in pay by awarding the extra $6.10. There's already a 60-hour payout that needs to happen. So that's only going to leave a potential 36-hour balance. But I heard the town administrator say that there was going to be some extra money there that they're going to look to reappropriate to other staff to get it. So I want to be very careful that if we do that, that's a very small bucket that all of a sudden the money's not going to be there, and we're going to be asked to shift money around when this new person comes in, who probably isn't going to be at 3143, because those that remember this last one, who was a certified Council on Age director that came from another community who actually did the job, this was a point of contention with her coming on at that rate and thinking it was too low. So I don't think we're going to get somebody else at that higher level. All that being said, it sounds like, and I guess I didn't pick this up Monday night, that we didn't even advertise for this job. We went out and cherry-picked somebody, almost like a no-bid job, and we're trying to make this work for this person. Emergency situation, okay. I don't know that 48 business hours really constitutes that big of an emergency to just hand this job to somebody. But then the third thing is it fair and equitable to all concerned? And I say no. I say the other employees who have been patiently waiting for us to do what we said we were going to do, what we committed to do, and it has nothing to do with the current TA. This is on the previous TA and why it didn't get done on time, is this wage study, so that everybody is brought up unilaterally. We have sat here over and over and said we don't want to cherry pick, we don't want to do just this one. And this particular spot comes open, and it could have been the assessor's office, it could have been the accountant's office. It has nothing to do with the COA, and it's throw everything to the side. We got to put this through. We got to tell all the other employees, yeah, you know, we value you, but if you leave, we're hiring the next person coming in making more money, and we're just going to keep chugging along. But we expect these staff to just sit here and keep doing their job. It's on us. We are doing the best we can, I get that, but we have to step it up and solve this wage study issue. This needs to be, I feel, priority number one, before the public safety, before the new senior center, anything else. If we don't take care of the investment in our staff, we are going to continue to sprout downhill, and making these one-time exceptions is just, in my view, a slap in the face to the employees that are showing up every day doing their work.
Yeah. I think perhaps a perspective on this is it makes it more complicated to address this emergency hire issue by associating it with the wage study. I don't understand or appreciate the tie between the two. I see that while there is a need to get our wage study done in an efficient manner, we have a situation here where we need a person to fill a position.
And essentially keep the doors open. I think that was Scott's point.
Yeah, but if I could, well...
Keep the doors open and keep the center functioning for the seniors that come in and use the center on a daily basis.
Less than a month ago, we had to keep the payroll going. And we made the treasurer bend over backwards to stay within budget in the lines that were passed. So much so that the next person coming in is just barely coming up above minimum wage. But that wasn't an option here. It's like, let's just find the extra money and put it in. So again, the person that was doing the payroll, that we need to do the payroll to pay our people, we fought her tooth and nail to hold the line and hold the budget line. All the positions deserve an increase.
They do.
And my position, I don't think I can vote to support this. Nothing against the Council on Aging. But if I vote for this, I'm going against everything I've been preaching for 3 years about fair and equitable for all the employees.
And I think you're making it more complicated on yourself making that decision, but you're also reflecting poorly on the select board by saying that, by tying those issues together. So I at this point disagree with your statement.
I respect your opinion.
Okay, all right. All right, so at this point in time, I think we have a choice to either accept or reject the...
Or modify.
Modify the PCF. We have the person, which has been identified, and I guess we need to have clarity in terms of a motion of accepting the PCF as written with the salary and the hours stated. Is anybody willing to make that motion?
There's one part I don't understand. How did we get to the initial $37 number?
That's the top scale of the pay wage, of the current scale that's in place.
for the
Step
the pay
5.
scale of that current position.
grade 5.
So yeah, it says grade 5, I think, on the PCF. So with the new compensation study, and I totally agree with John that that has got to be a priority to get done, and I think, Scott has made the efforts to get other towns to respond, which I don't understand why Collins couldn't have done the same thing, given that we've paid them to do this, and that's still a bone of contention. But I think the point is that will be in place before we hire a new senior center director, a permanent person. That has got to be in place so that we know where a new person coming in stands. I think we have a very different, unique situation here and an emergency situation that we can't afford to not have. The staff that we have, the 2 or 3 volunteers that we have, not volunteers, sorry, the 2 or 3 staff that we have now, 3 staff right now, do not work full-time. They are very part-time. And so even getting somebody to come in at 8:30 and turn on the lights and unlock the door so that activities can happen, I think is a challenge for them in their own home lives and their own family lives, et cetera. What I think comforts me a little bit about this is that I don't see this person doing anything more than just the overall administrative organizational thing, which I think they probably need down at that end of the hall, and does not want to do anything with programming, leaving that to the staff that are there, which I think is what should happen. They're the ones that know what's going on. So I don't see any, real, I see this as a finger in the dike, I guess, right now, which I feel is a little bit different than what we ran into. But
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I think the guidance I would look to in terms of our policy is in these, what I'll call short-term emergency hires, do we typically, is there a policy that we would go to the far end of the pay scale such that we can, is that why we're going to that number, so that we can immediately fill this need? Is that what gets us to that number that we agree to? I guess I want to make sure we're applying the policy to the reasoning behind getting to that.
Scott can speak better to that, but I think the 37 gets us to the end of that grade for that position that we currently have. And as he was alluding to, that if you were to bring somebody in on a contract and that kind of thing, you would be far and above the $37 an hour. You would not, or if we were to hire, like we did last 3 years ago, whatever, that temporary accounting firm to bring in that temporary accountant. I mean, we paid through the nose in terms of fees to the actual company. So hiring somebody like that would not be cost effective.
The driving factor behind it is the emergency nature of the hire, okay, thank you.
And the other driving factor that I see is the history, the strength, the qualifications, the background of the individual that isn't, we expect this person to just perform essentially without any sort of supervision initially because this person has that person in their background. But I have to acknowledge John over there for what he just said. This has been amazingly frustrating, no question about it. From a standpoint of where I was for the last 3 years, which wasn't sitting here, it's been awful. And I've come to meetings where I've heard how frustrating it's been, and we've been waiting for the Collins study. And for whatever reason, it didn't happen, and yet we have to keep going.
It was just a lousy study.
Well, it happened, but later than expected, and it's a lousy study. So, I think those are two different things, and I don't think we should weigh too heavily on the mess to not keep going on what we need for this very important part of our town government. That's kind of where I'm at, and, I'm kind of leaning very strongly towards, modifying the particular PPPB presentation here and what they did and allowing the higher salary to prevail that's been requested. And that's where I'm leaning right now, unless I hear differently.
Any further discussion on this? Can we have a motion on whichever way you would like to go? Somebody willing to make a motion? We have the PCF before us.
So let me see if I can read that.
If you want to keep it as is, if you want to modify, just make your motion, please.
So I'm moving that we we accept the PCF as presented and signed by Scott for this interim hire of Deborah Radway at $37.53 per hour. And it's for up to 19 hours weekly.
Second.
Okay.
Effective July 23rd.
Effective July 23rd.
So she can get paid for the work she did this morning.
Effective July 23rd.
Okay, effective July 23rd. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Okay. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. All those not in favor, say nay.
Nay.
Nay, okay. Stephen, you were an aye? I didn't hear you.
I was an aye.
Okay. All right, so motion passes 4-1 to accept the PCF and that salary range for the 19 hours. Okay, thank you. And all good points, people. I think all very valid points. And definitely we will be working to make this compensation plan a reality. We've got to get it done.
If I could, on the happier things, motion to approve a one-day wine and malt drinking package for the Southampton Democratic Committee, Conant Park, Saturday, August 24th, 2024,
Second.
from 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m.
All right.
Second.
Motion and second, John and Dan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. Motion passes. Thank you.
now
All
the
right,
Stephen hour.
next we are up to Stephen with all his
Even
wonderful
hour.
warrants.
Hopefully not.
Go ahead.
Glass of water. The following warrants have been processed since we last met or reported. Warrant 24, W24-46, a treasury warrant in the amount of negative $358.42. An amended warrant, W24-46A, in the same amount, $358.42 in the positive, to take care of a errant check or something. W24-50V in the amount of negative $60, treasury warrant. Payroll warrant P24-51 in the amount of $327,969.31. Payroll deduction warrant PD 24-51, the amount is $52,686.96. Another payroll deduction warrant, PD 24-51A, the amount is $226,866.76. Treasury warrant, W24-52, and the amount is $157,132.54. Payroll treasury warrant, P 24-53, the amount is $429,188.65. Another payroll deduction warrant, a payroll deduction warrant, PD 24-53, in the amount of $64,296.12. A treasury warrant, W24-54, the amount is $365,055.49. Finally, pending approval, warrant W25-1, the amount of $1,072,386.67.
Okay. Could we just have a mini explanation on the warrant pending?
Yeah.
We don't usually have a,
That's
it's our first, is it payroll or
that's
is
the
it
answer. No, it's fiscal year 25.
fiscal 25, but it's,
Pending, so it's that warrant that probably went out July 15th.
oh, okay. And so we're assuming, or not assuming, but you can confirm, Scott, that the Finance Committee did approve all of our transfers and all that we had agreed to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, so pending is not relevant anymore?
Hasn't been released.
Hasn't been released, yeah.
Yes,
But,
thank you.
okay, but that's part of that, maybe tied into that, is that correct? Okay. All right, thank you, Stephen. That's a lot of paperwork to read through and sign. Thank you very much. All right, so just basically, our next Select Board meetings are August 6th and August 20th. And in between time, we have Celebrate Southampton. Please don't forget that. That will be, let me not lie, August 10th.
Can't forget.
Yes, well, August 9th, the concert, August 9th, and then August 10th is the main day of activities. So please make yourself available. Come on down to Conant Park. Come to the Congregational Church for Memory Hour in the morning of the 10th. Concert Friday night at the park, and ongoing activities. Always looking for more volunteers for Dunk Tank and a few other things, but a lot of groups are stepping up to sponsor activities, which is great to see. So thanks very much. We will hope to see people then. And otherwise, I think we will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
All right. All in favor? All right, we are adjourned at about 7:55.
Does this go off now?
Thank you very much.